Sthairyam is the eighth value. This is a steadfastness, fixity of faith, the absence of fickleness or waywardness of the mind. The sadhaka, or the aspirant, spiritual aspirant, must hold fast to what he has once fixed his mind upon, his faith upon, as conducive to his spiritual progress. He should not flit from one thing to another, changing the goal from day to day. So fickleness, the mind, this waywardness of mind, he says, is a product of weakness, and this weakness has to be avoided. This is one explanation of this value. It is sthirata, steadfastness. With my willpower, I commit to one thing. I'm steady with that one thing. And this is applicable to anything in life. It is not just spiritual life. If you any success you want to gain in any sphere of life, any profession, anything, this quality of sthirata, of sthairyam, of being integrated as a person, of being very, very focused, is an excellent quality to develop as well. So it has this commitment, the steadiness has in the traditionally two meanings. The first meaning is the staying power that Swami talks about, which is for spiritual, especially for spiritual path, for spiritual study, it's very important. Why? Why is it important? Because life is full of obstacles. This is a fact in all our lives. No life is obstacle free. Everyone will have some obstacle or other sometime in their life. Maybe there are big, long periods without any kind of obstacles, but we can all vouch for that. Definitely, when we least expect it, something suddenly comes in the way of our achieving something. So this value is actually asking you, how are you going to face your obstacles in your life? Are you going to succumb to your obstacles? So there's a very beautiful shloka. It is from Bhartrhari's Niti Shatakam. Bhartrhari was a great rishi as well. He had written some this Sanskrit shlokas which talk about how to be in the life and to give, wisdom. These are like subhashitams. They're wise sayings in Sanskrit. So he says, Prarabhyatena khalu viknabhayena nichehi. Prarabhyate. So these people, the lowest type of people, or the most, weakest of people, they don't start any task in life. Why? Because they're afraid of failure already. So they don't even start any task. If you ask such people in their life, they will brag. They will say, I never failed at anything in my life. I never failed at all. And then if you ask, did you actually do anything? They'll say, no, we didn't start anything. That's why they didn't fail. Because definitely, if you do something in your life, there is a possibility of it not working out immediately. So this lowest type of mentality, this weakest type of mentality, he says, is the people who are afraid of failure and they don't start anything in their life. They don't do anything because they already have in their mind, we're going to fail. Then he says, Prarabhya vigna vihita vitam viramanti madhyaha, which means the mediocre types, the middling types, when they come across an obstacle, they do start. So at least they made a start. When there's something that they see they want to achieve, they start that thing. But the obstacle comes in their life. What do? Do they cross the obstacle? Do they continue? No, they give up. No, that's it, finished. I forget my goal. I'm not going to go on further. This is the mediocre type. They will give up at the slightest obstacle, they give up. But he says, Vigne punaf punarapi pratihanyamanaha uttamajanaha na parityajanti. The greatest of all souls don't give up on their goals, even if confronted by obstacles again and again and again. Punaf punarapi. Again and again, the obstacles keeps coming. What do these people do? The great souls who are successful in their lives, they keep going. They get up, they get on with it. So there's a saying in English, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. It's exactly like this value. There's no such thing. People don't accept this thing as failure. They carry on, they do it. There's a beautiful example in the scriptures, in the Puranas, of Bhagirata Prayatna. If you've heard of it, Bhagirata Prayatna is when he brings down the Ganga, the river Ganga, through Lord Shiva's jata, through Lord Shiva's hair. But how much tapasya, he's done so much penance to do that, so much obstacle he faced, he still continued, and that is why he's praised by Lord Brahma in the scriptures for having that type of commitment. He did not give up. He continued, and finally he was blessed by Ganga Mata coming to the earth because of his tapas as well. So this is the type of mentality this value talks about, Sthairyam. We have to keep going, whatever obstacles come. And what are the sources of obstacles that can come in anyone's life? So there's 3 levels of obstacles in anybody's life. And the first level is Adi Devika Tapaha. We've seen this in the power of prayer, but it is good to refresh. Adi Devika Tapaha are the karmic obstacles that we have to face, which are not in our control. Suddenly some disease comes, suddenly something manifests, not in my control, something part of the karma. So natural disasters, anything associated with, time, nature, unseen hand of fate. Pandemics like coronavirus come under this type of obstacle as well, because they are created by divine, created by the order of divinity. We don't know. We are not in control of coronavirus. How it came, we cannot blame China. We cannot blame wet markets. We cannot blame anyone. It is ultimately, if Bhagavan had not wanted it to happen, it would not have happened. That is the Shraddha we should have. It is God-given. It is an obstacle if we take it to be an obstacle. But all of these disasters, hurricanes, floods, earthquakes, these are put under Adi Devika Tapahas. This is number 1 level of obstacles that we may have to face in our life. Then the second level of obstacles we have to face in our life is Adi Bhautika Tapaha. Adi Bhautika Tapahas are obstacles from the world around us. Miseries, some misery inflicted by other living entities around us, or anything surrounding us. Flies, sometimes, bugs, all of these animals bothering us, rats getting into the house, these type of things, neighbors playing the music loud, Adi Bhautika Tapahas. So even people who become enmical in my life, for whatever reason, suddenly somebody takes a dislike to me, they give me a lot of problems at my work. All of this is Adi Bhautika Tapahas. I may not have done anything for that, but they're doing all of this. Friends turning to enemies, anything source of displeasure from immediate surroundings. But over these, I have some level of control. I have some level, I can manage these things. So this is Adi Bhautika Tapaha, the second level of obstacles that we could face in our life. But the third level of obstacle that we face, as I've said, it's the most difficult level we face, is Adhyatmika Tapaha, which is caused by my own self. It can include bodily suffering or mental anguish, anything to do with my own makeup. So hereditary diseases, disabilities, all of this are considered some kind of obstacles to accomplishing things. And the mental turmoil or agonies caused by worries, anxieties, attachments, aversions that we all have in our life. So anything connected with my own self, with my body, mind, and senses is brought under this type of obstacle. This type of obstacle is very, very difficult to handle. That is why Ishvara is brought in, the Lord is brought in, an altar is brought in to help cope with this particular type of obstacle that we face. Even any emotions come under here, laziness, apathy, lack of conviction, lack of self-belief, all are obstacles in our life. Because when I want to accomplish something, immediately the thought may come, no, you cannot do it. Very, very frequently, this happens to people. If I have something I want to do, I have interest in it, the thought will immediately come, counter thought, no, you're not capable of it, you cannot do it. Now that is where we have to be very careful. This is an obstacle that I'm creating for myself. That is why Bhagavan Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 6th chapter, he says a beautiful verse where he says, Atmeva hyatmano bandhuhu, Atmeva ripuratmanaha. You are your worst enemy in life. Nobody outside is your worst enemy. He tells Arjuna, your mind is your worst enemy. You are in charge. You can make your mind your worst enemy. But he says, your mind can also become your best friend. Atmeva hyatmana bandhuhu. Your mind is also your best friend. But your mind can become your worst enemy if you allow it to go on its own way and let the thoughts, negative thoughts, take over. So Bhagavan says to Arjuna, you are in charge. You are in charge. You will have to take control of your life and all these obstacles. That is why we say three shantis. After every prayer, we say shanti, shanti, shanti. Traditionally, three shantis are said to ward off peace to the Adi Devika obstacles. Oh Lord, let not those obstacles from Devas affect my life. Shanti, ward off those. Shanti, second Shanti, let there be peace in my immediate environment. Let not this immediate environment also be an obstacle in my life, in my spiritual life, in my worldly life, in any of my pursuits. Let it not be obstacle. But the last Shanti, we hold on longer. If you notice, everywhere we hold on, we say Shanti. Why? That's why we require most peace. In our own adhyatmika tapaha, the internal obstacles that come, we require most peace there in that level. That's why the last Shanti is like that. So bringing this value down to the spiritual level where we're most interested as spiritual aspirants, seekers, in this value, it talks about something called vyavasayatmika buddhi, which means staying power for the goal of human life. What is the goal? We have seen right at the beginning, an introduction to Vedanta. The goal envisaged for every human life is moksha or liberation, freedom from the sense of limitation, freedom from bondage, freedom from the sense of feeling smallness as small and inadequate, of feeling like nothing and nobody. And moksha is the discovery of oneself to be whole, fullness, the meaning, nature of happiness, of joy. That is the Shastra definition of moksha. And vyavasayatmika buddhi means I'm very clear about my goal in life. Everything else that I do in life is just geared towards that final goal. My profession is geared towards that final goal. My family life is geared towards that final goal. Everything I do with the final goal in sight. That is called vyavasayatmika buddhi. That is, for that to be in your life, that type of thinking, we need the value of Sthairyam. That is why Krishna brings it in. You need Sthairyam, staying power. Be clear about your goal. Because if you're clear about your goal, you will be clear about the means to achieve the goal. You will not waver on your journey. Suddenly, you won't be like 2 weeks, I'll do meditation. Yes, I'll do all my sadhana, everything. Suddenly, next week, no, I will go out, I will go to a party, I will do something else. That is not Sthairyam. Sthairyam is regularity in the practices, even though the mind resists. Many times the mind will resist. I don't feel like getting up early this morning. I don't feel like doing the sadhana. I don't feel like doing japa. Why should I do it? It's a nice day outside. Let me lie in bed till 11, 12. No, sometimes we don't know. Mind can take over. That is when the value of Sthairyam should come into the picture. No, Bhagavan said Sthairyam. Disciplined life is very important for spiritual success. An ill-disciplined life cannot give spiritual success. So everything in life becomes, discipline in eating habits, discipline in waking, sleeping habits. Every habit becomes important in your goal, to reach your goal. So this one idea of Sthairyam. There is also, you may have heard, there's a Arambasura. Arambasuras are people who are heroes at the start, very resolute. Like January the 1st comes, all the New Year's resolutions are made. Yes, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Arambasuras like this. 2nd of January comes, what happens? All the list goes. Everything is already forgotten 2nd of January. The New Year resolution list is finished already. So this is not Sthairyam. The enthusiasm dwindling not Sthairyam. Don't like responsibility, not Sthairyam. Effort, any effort that I see is required in something and I don't want to do it, it puts me off, it's not Sthairyam. And if we have this type of thinking, then commitment is not complete. One has to work in these areas. And yoga, the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, I'd mentioned it when I talked of this value before, but it very beautifully, Patanjali Muni, great rishi who has developed the Ashtanga yoga system, the 8-limbed yoga system, he addresses these issues of the mind, not just the yoga asanas, but the yoga system also addresses mental issues as well, how to manage the mind. He lists 9 obstacles that are able to scatter a very, very focused mind and prevent the movement of the mind inwards. These 9 obstacles will stop the mind from looking inside, from going within. He says, Vyadi, of course, that is the most obvious one. Vyadi is the first obstacle, which is disease, any kind of disease, physical, mental disorder, ailment. It diverts your mental focus in that direction. So how do we handle this obstacle? Very good way of handling it. If you can do asanas, if you can do the physical exercises of yoga, that will help manage this. Pranayama exercises, the breathing exercises also help manage these type of things. So one needs a healthy physical body and healthy, relatively healthy mind as well to follow this path. Then another obstacle he explains is sthana, which is mental heaviness, lack of enthusiasm. This often becomes an obstacle, as I've just said, that becomes an obstacle and it stops me from achieving my goals in life. Then samshaya, it's a big obstacle. Samshaya means doubt. Is this really going to work? Sometimes that comes. I do japa for years and years. I'm doing Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya every day, thousands of times. What is happening? Then same problems come, same things. People always question, what use is all this japa? What use is this meditation? What use is all this? The doubts come. No, the scriptures have said they are of use. If you drop those practices, Swami himself has said, you'll be much worse. So don't drop the practices. Even if you don't feel you're getting better, if you drop them, you'll be worse. He said that as well in one discourse, I remember. You keep going with it. One day it's going to purify the mind. It will come. It invokes Bhagwan's grace. Definitely, he cannot but respond to your effort. Effort will always invoke Lord's grace. That is a fact as well. So samshaya, this doubt should be avoided. Then pramada. Pramada means inattentiveness. 5 minutes, one focus, and something else drags your attention away. The mind, the eyes go one direction, ear goes some other direction. Pramada. This is another inattentiveness really to be avoided in this managing the mind. Alasya, next obstacle. Alasya is very obvious. It is idleness, laziness. There is no consistency in efforts. Alasya always comes in the way, this lazy kind of attitude. Then avirati. Avirati is indulgence. Indulgence in food, indulgence in sleep, indulgence in things that we enjoy, pleasures. Indulgence can also dullen your senses. We don't realize, why do we talk about that? Actually, that's another value that comes up later. But indulging in sense pleasures, that's why Swami always says sealing on desires. Why he talks about sealing on desires? Because he knows it is going to dullen your mind. The more sense pleasures we want to experience again and again, sense pleasures, the mind becomes dull. And moderation, for this, moderation is the key. With anything in your life, moderation, in any habits, moderation is the key. Then Bhranti Darshana, he says, is is another obstacle. This is a very interesting obstacle. It is fanciful thinking. It is spending your time just dreaming about things. Oh, dreaming, I won the lottery today. I got the ticket, the 122 million pounds lottery or euro millions, the biggest jackpot. I won it today. But dreaming, what will I do with the lottery money? Hours go with you dreaming about having won the lottery, not actually having won the lottery. So this is called Bhranti Darshana, illusory thinking. Mind is always in fanciful ideas, in dreams, and you waste time doing that. You don't have time to spend going inside and doing your sadhana. And alabdha bhumikatva, which means unsettled feeling. You feel unsupported. You feel all alone in your practices. Nobody is there. In fact, that's why we always say satsangam is so important. Satsangatve nissangatvam. Then you get to Jivan Mukti. It all starts with satsangam, good company, keeping the company of good, even if it's online, it doesn't matter, but having good company, good words, listening to good talks, all of this is a type of satsang as well. So satsangam will give you the impetus to proceed on your spiritual life, on your spiritual journey also. Then instability is the next one. Anavasthitvani, instability. So that again, very similar. All of these obstacles are quite similar. The instability is that you're not, again, the doubt, all of this comes into this type of obstacles. You're not stable in your life. You keep changing, wavering all the time. Chitta vikshepaha, again, the inability, he says, it's an inability to focus in one direction. So the thoughts are wild in the mind. There are too many thoughts in the mind. They come all the time. There's inability to know what thoughts to. Sometimes the mind is like that. We cannot help. Some days the mind full of thoughts and everything. How do we manage? This vikshepa, it is again a shakti that is overactive. Vikshepa shakti means the projection, the power of projection, which each human being has, sometimes becomes too active. So he says, Patanjali, these are the obstacles. These are the obstacles that cause the scattering of a balanced mind. By nature, this is the wonderful thing that is said in the scriptures. By nature, the mind is actually balanced. By nature, returning to its original nature, the mind is sattva predominant. It is sattvic. It is actually good-natured. It is actually peaceful. Everybody's mind is like this by nature. But what has happened? It has been tainted by rajas and tamas, these other gunas, these other qualities, which give it a lot of agitation. Rajas, that quality of rajas gives it a lot of agitation. And tamas gives it a lot of lethargy. So the mind gets polluted by these two gunas, these two qualities, and we're not able to progress. So that is why the best way to progress, to get the mind actually with you, the first thing is that seva. If you cannot control your mind, if you cannot sit for meditation, you cannot manage your thoughts. That is why Swami has said again and again, seva, seva, seva. It is the best way to get that mind under one's hands as well. We think we're serving others. It's not serving anybody else. You're serving yourself. Everything is for one's own sake. Seva will help you grow spiritually. That is why Swami has always put that number one on the list. For the majority of people in this world, it is very difficult to sit for meditation for hours and hours. But people are not made like that. They're very active. The minds are active. So how do we manage the active minds? That's why he said, don't waste your life. Use the active mind in good actions. Use the active mind in helping others and serving others. In the same way, you grow. When you do that with your life, you also grow spiritually. And as you do more seva, you will see for yourself. Try it. When more service is done, your mind will become calmer, because it is called antav karna shuddhi in Shastra. When you do the service, when you do it just for the sake of Ishvara, because you want to do it to please Ishvara for the Lord's sake, and whatever results you get from the seva, we've seen that whatever work you do, seva need not be, again, we have to be clear, what is seva? Seva need not be unpaid work. That is not only seva. Seva is an attitude. Seva means karma yoga attitude, an attitude of service. Service to whom? First of all, you serve the Lord. You serve the Lord, meaning you offer all your actions to the Lord. It doesn't matter if you're paid for the action or not paid. It is not the payment. It is you offer your actions to divinity. And whatever result you get, you take as prasadam. You don't complain. Whatever Bhagavan gives you, you don't say, I deserve more than this. Why am I getting only this? I shouldn't be getting this. I need more. No, It is prasadam. That is what is going to help you grow in your life. So this is the first meaning of Sthairyam, the meaning that one has to be with the task, with the life, with the journey of spiritual journey. Now, there's a second meaning of Sthairyam, which is also given in the tradition. It is the commitment, execution of one's own swadharma, of one's own karma. What is to be done by you in life, that is Sthairyam. You may not like the roles you have to play in your life. You may not like the jobs you have to do in your life. But Bhagavan is saying here that despite your likes and dislikes, whatever work you get, anything you have, you use it for your spiritual life, use it for your spiritual growth. Likes and dislikes they don't even need to come in the picture. So Sthairyam is doing what is to be done by you in a given situation. And in those days, there was a structure for this. Again, I'm talking about those days because in the Vedic times, there was a structure given. We cannot bring that structure. Unfortunately, in this time, the goals of human life have changed. In those Vedic times, the goal was very clear. It was moksha. So Varnashrama became very important. The Varnashrama Dharma, which is the loosely translated as the caste system. It is not the caste system. It is certain duties that are assigned to certain types of people in society. And these duties become very important because people accepted their duties. They saw it as a way to self-perfection. They saw it as a way to self-discovery, to the final goal through self-purification and self-growth. Doing your duty in life is for your own sake, for self-growth. It is not help. Again, nothing we do in our life is for anybody else's sake. Everything is ultimately for our own sake. It is not even selfless. There's no such thing as selfless service. Selfless service is also for your own sake. At the same time, you're helping others. Definitely, it is a sign of growth, but seva is also for our own sake. So here, duty in those days, let us understand, it's interesting to see, there was a non-competitive society in Vedic times. There was no competition there. How was success defined in Vedic times? Success was not defined by how much money you have or what, where you live in the community, or what kind of house you have, what kind of job profession you have. It wasn't defined by these criteria that we define now. Nowadays is what? Money, name, fame, power, all of this is success. No, in Vedic time, the success was performing your duty properly. Can you imagine? That was success. Whoever performed their duty properly was considered a successful person, because they knew that self-purification, doing my duty, is to purify my mind, to purify the instrument which is needs for the instrument that is needed to discover spiritual success. And that instrument is the mind. And that mind, antavkarana shuddhi, I live my life, I suspend my likes and dislikes. Whatever comes, the mind likes something, the mind dislikes something. I don't look at all that, because I look at what is to be done. For me, it's more important doing my duty rather than running after what I like all the time and running away from what I dislike. This is exactly what Krishna says is samsara. He says, this is what Bhagavad Gita training is, not always to go after what we like to do, but do what we have to do. Happiness does not like in always doing what you like to do. Happiness likes in doing what you have to do. So that was the idea of success in those days. It is all about raga, dvesha management, about likes, dislikes management. When I live my life this way, I discover I live a karma yoga lifestyle, and this is the greatest sadhana that one can do. This is more important than doing all the meditation and all this. When you can live your life like this, do what is to be done, you get the proper mind for gaining self-knowledge and enjoying the fruits of self-knowledge. So in this Varnashrama Dharma that was there in those days, duties and careers were already established by your birth. There was no competition there at that time. It's very interesting. So it is the goal in that time again was moksha. So artha and kama as the human goals. Artha means the pursuit of security. Kama means pursuit of pleasure. These were put lower down in the order. What was put first? Dharma and moksha was put first. So this is what, this is what the idea behind the varnashrama system was. If you're born into a certain family, your job would be, suppose you're born into a priestly family, your father's a priest and your grandfather's a priest. The thing in those days was that you will also enter the priestly line. You will enter the same family line. There won't be like, I want to do this, I want to do that. Again, as I said, these days it's very different. We cannot force children to enter the line that we have entered into. It is not possible these days. But in those days, it was very natural. It was something that people did because the actual job wasn't important. The goal was important. Whatever you did was only for that moksha as well. So Swadharma in those days was very clear with the structure that was given. And also, it was not just by jati, not just by birth. All the gunas, the quality of a human being, the qualities, the vasanas that you have were also taken into account in those days. What qualities do you have? What qualities do does your mind exhibit? And also what karma, all of these was taken into the jati, the birth, the karma, profession, and also the qualities were taken into mind. So somebody who was inclined to teaching, religious activities, this type of thing will be called a brahmana. A Brahmin is somebody who is into the teaching profession, somebody who is educating. It doesn't matter. It is not dependent on your birth, right? It is your quality that you have. If you are inclined to teaching, if you are inclined to sharing all of this, you are called a Brahmin. Brahmin is not higher than any other of the categories. Problem is human being has put that highest. And everybody, they put in, human beings always like to have hierarchy. Unfortunately, we put everything in hierarchies. So we put that, but in the original Vedic scriptures in the Shastra, there is no greater and lesser. Every category is a part of the divine cosmic form. I'll tell you, there's a beautiful prayer called Purusha Suktam. It's a Vedic prayer. And they're also thousands of years old. It said that Brahmano Syamukamasid Bahura Janya Kritaha Uru Tadasya Yat Vaishyaha Padbyagum Shudro Ajayata. There the Lord is envisaged as a cosmic form, the form of this universe. And in that prayer it is said, from his mouth came the men of learning, from his head came the men of learning. From his arms came the warriors, the kshatriyas. From his arms came the kshatriyas. From his thighs came the vaishyas, the business people, the people who ran society. And from his feet came the shudras, the people who served the other three varnas. So the whole varna system goes to make Bhagavan. You cannot have Bhagavan in full form if you cut off his feet. Bhagavan is not full if you cut off the arms. If you cut off his head, it's not full. So every person had a role to play in society in those days. The kshatriyas were the admin, the judiciary, the defense, the politicians, the ones who run the country. In every country, we have these four systems still now prevalent. So anybody who is involved in the administration of the country is a kshatriya. The protection of the country is a kshatriya. Doesn't matter where they have been born or anything like that. Anybody who's involved in commerce, agriculture, any of these professions is called a Vaishya in the Shastra. This was the structure given. And the Shudras are the ones who serve the other three, who offer service, which means their professions. Without their service, the other three will not function at all. That is how important the Shudras are in the whole thing. So these activities are there in every society. Not only in India, in tribal societies, you have these divisions as well. Everywhere you go, you have these divisions. So this raga dvesha, with this structure that was given, the likes and dislikes of a human being were kept in suspense. You didn't always go with what you like. You did what is to be done by you. And the choice was not for job satisfaction. It may be shocking to hear this. There was no job satisfaction in those days. It was inner satisfaction, which was more important. because even if the job was not satisfying, the ultimate goal was inner satisfaction. So you would do the job even because it was given to you, it was your duty to do. Today, it is very, very different. As I said, there's so much open to everybody, so many choices, so many options. In fact, it's more difficult. Children these days, teenagers these days have more difficulties because there's too much to choose from. Those days, it was much easier. You were in a certain place, duty, it's very clear, duty is already there for you. You just did your duty, lived a full life, went through all the ashramas, and finally you achieved spiritual success, which was the goal of human existence as well. So moksha, this value says moksha has to be kept in view. Keep moksha in view. Swadharma nishta, do your duty, do your dharma. Depending on the time, the place, the situation, one has to keep this Sthairyam. It is your commitment to what is to be done at a given place, at a given situation, in a given circumstance, given with a certain set of people.